Hey everyone, and welcome back. So if you've been following along, especially within forms and UI elements, we created a lot of different components, especially we talked about inputs, which are incredibly important. What I did was I basically took a lot of those inputs and redesigned them within here. I'm only really going to need them for, let's see, based off of our visual style and exploration resource over here that you should be using as well. We have them in different spaces. We have them over here, as in like these fills. So I just used like a background gray, which, I ended up switching just to be consistent. And I have them over here. As you can tell, like no consistency in terms of the input because, obviously we were just exploring. We have them here. So we do have those available to us. Now, they're structured in the exact same way. So we have like error messages if we need them. Let's take one just so we can explore this. So you can toggle the label. You can show placeholders, show left icons. You can have right icons. You can have success messages. You can have exactly all that. And if you go into the label, so I made the label a base component below, you can show the icon there or an optional label there. We won't be using those a bunch because maybe they'll only be for the sign up screen, but I have a bunch of different versions. I have the disabled, error, success, state. These are all the variants. The active state, I have the filled state, and then the just empty state. Then let's go into our base components. First, I'm going to grab our input frame from our visual style and exploration resource. So as you can tell, we have a bunch of different inputs. So we did create those inputs pretty easily because we had a lot of like past references that we could use. Just swapping out a lot of those different icons that were used previously for the icons that we have now in our foundation. And we have these different types of checkboxes that I've been using. So created a checkbox and radio. Even though we don't have radio, like I like to sometimes create them ahead of time so that way we're prepared. Just, worst case scenarios. And then we have these different pill selectors. They're kind of like toggles. So I have two variations of these and decided to create those components. I'll get into those in a second. So I have my checkboxes, which are, like I said, these are going to be easy to use. When you go into your list item here, you can see that I just have two versions here. I have one with the checkbox on the right and one with the checkbox on the left. So when we get into our actual checkboxes, we can easily take this and use it in a way like that. So we can drag it here and we can go through that list. I can turn off the label if I want to. I can swap between radio or a checkbox. And then I can go ahead and, hide or swap them to right or left. So that is how you can use that input list. And then we have our chips. So I did go and create these larger chips and these smaller chips, all very similar to the types of buttons that we currently have. But these are only going to be used mostly, this one's on the onboarding screens and or on the registration screens. And these ones are going to be like on category screens, and just a little nice option to have that available whenever you want it. And that is how you use these chips. And you can also, if you really wanted to, we can build these out even more to have properties like I have here. You can use either the same properties I have within the buttons, which I've kind of created over here. So if I grab this one and I can show the left icon if I wanted and the right icon, and do something like that if I need to. So definitely lots of options there for you. And those are our inputs. Let's take a look at some of these, just how we've used these inputs. If we go into the registration, so a lot of my design here, I've been thinking about like big chunky inputs that I can have people click instead of like checkboxes in this case. And then when we get into like some of the details, we can go a little deeper. And when I was working on categories, I thought about like all the categories and listing them in just kind of pill form, and people can actually just click them and just go straight there really quickly. You can also use this maybe even for filters, because sometimes filters can get out of hand. Even though I didn't build them into the actual filter section over here yet, aside from like some of this stuff, you can have larger sections like that category page. And like I said, I'm basically using a lot of the same just ways of creating those pills. Like I'm keeping it really, really consistent, and I have two states here. So when I use this pill and I have it unselected, I can easily just say, okay, now it's selected. So that is how you can use these chips in your designs.